My sister and husband tried to kick me out of my own house on Christmas. My 28-year-old sister, Lisa, moved in with her husband, Adam, 31, about 2 years ago. Lisa and I were never especially close, but family is family. Recently, they decided to renovate their home. The work has been a disaster, so last week, they asked if they could stay with me. I was surprised since we hadn't spoken in months, but I agreed. Things took a weird turn when Lisa asked to have a talk. She told me that she and Adam wanted to have my place entirely to themselves for Christmas, even Christmas Day. I was baffled and asked where she expected me to go. Her reply? I don't know. Get a hotel? She insisted I could afford it and added, it's not personal, but we have our own traditions, and they're important to us. Her entitlement left me speechless. I reminded her that they'd knowingly started their renovation during the holidays, fully aware it would disrupt these so-called traditions. When I refused, she became defensive, accusing me of being selfish and saying, "You've always been the stubborn one in this family." Adam chimed in, claiming I was being unreasonable and that I should want to help because family is family. The audacity! When I told them my decision was final, Lisa stormed off and spent the next day sulking around my house. That night, I overheard her on the phone with our mother, crying about how I was ruining Christmas and making her feel homeless. Then my parents called, furious with me. My mom demanded to know why I couldn't just be accommodating for once and claimed Lisa had been through enough stress. I calmly explained the situation, but she dismissed me, saying, "You've always been too rigid. Lisa's the younger sister. She deserves a break." When I pointed out that Lisa and Adam could stay elsewhere or even with them, my mom scoffed, saying, "We don't have the space. Besides, it's your turn to step up." The implication that I owed Lisa something infuriated me. I told them that if they cared so much, they could host Christmas at their house. That suggestion was conveniently ignored. The next morning, Lisa and Adam started packing up my holiday decorations, claiming they needed to reset the vibe for their traditions. That was the last straw. I told them to pack their things and leave. They moved in with my parents, but the drama followed me. Over the next few days, my parents bombarded me with calls, accusing me of being heartless and ruining Christmas for the whole family. My dad, who usually stays out of these things, even said, "This is exactly why Lisa says she can't rely on you. You're always looking out for yourself." The guilt-tripping didn't stop there. My mom brought up every minor disagreement Lisa and I had growing up, painting me as the problem child who never supported her sister. She said, "You've always had the better job, the nicer house. Is it so hard to share for once?" The irony was almost laughable. Lisa had always been the golden child. Growing up, she was the one who could do no wrong. I was the responsible one, the one expected to fix things or make sacrifices. Yet here I was, being told I was selfish for not giving up my home during the holidays. A few months later, Lisa called me to apologize for her behavior over Christmas. She claimed she'd been overwhelmed by the renovations and didn't mean to lash out. I forgave her, thinking we could move forward. Not long after, Lisa and Adam announced their separation. Financial stress was a big factor, but according to my mom, Adam had also been hiding some serious debts. My mom conveniently left out the part where Lisa had been venting to her for months, without ever confiding in me. When Lisa asked to stay with me again, I hesitated but ultimately said yes. I figured things would be different this time. For the first couple of days, they were. We even had a nice evening watching movies and eating takeout, something we hadn't done in years. But the honeymoon phase didn't last. 2 nights in, Lisa asked if she could move into my larger office because it was more comfortable and had better lighting. When I said no, she got defensive, saying, "You're so territorial. It's not like I'm asking to stay forever." Then came the mess. Dirty dishes, food stains, and clutter began taking over the guest room. She spilled wine on a handmade quilt and left it there for days. When I asked her to clean up, she broke down, saying she was struggling emotionally and that I wasn't being supportive. To make matters worse, she started complaining to my parents about how I was treating her. My mom called, saying, "Lisa's in a fragile place. She needs love, not lectures." When I explained the mess and the disrespect, my mom brushed it off, saying, "It's just stuff. Can't you focus on what she's going through?" The final straw came when I caught Lisa rummaging through my personal files. She claimed she was just curious about how I managed my finances, but it felt intrusive and disrespectful. When I asked her to leave, my mom called, furious once again. She accused me of abandoning Lisa when she needed me most and said, "You're pushing your family away. Don't come crying to us when you're the one who's alone." After Lisa left, I decided I couldn't keep putting myself in these situations. My sister and I may never be close, and I've come to terms with that. Lisa called me last week to apologize again, admitting we're better off keeping our distance. As for my parents, I've stopped seeking their approval. I'm tired of being the scapegoat in a family where Lisa's mistakes are constantly excused and mine are magnified. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and support during last Christmas.
Now for the next story. Am I wrong for refusing to financially support family and friends, despite being able to? My son, Nick, was born 18 years ago with a congenital heart defect requiring a $50,000 surgery in Israel. My best friend gave me $10,000, which was everything he had. Accepting his help was one of the few times I cried as an adult. I sold my car and every piece of furniture or electronics that wasn't bolted to the walls. My in-laws moved in with us, and for 5 years, 5 people were crammed into a 2-bedroom apartment. The surgery for my son was a success. As fate would have it, I started a small hustle, and after years of hard work, it grew. Eventually, I moved our HQ to Central Europe to be closer to our EU clients, even accounting for the fact that 2/3 of my wealth is tied up in the business. I am now a multi-millionaire. My in-laws have a 4-bedroom house that we purchased for them, and we used to pay for them to take vacations 3 to 4 times a year before 2020. My son is thriving, and I couldn't be prouder of him. I can't say I hate those who didn't help us when we needed it most. Hate is a strong word. Instead, I've learned to adjust my expectations and set boundaries. For example, I don't invite my parents to visit us unless they're willing to pay for their flights and accommodations. Unlike my in-laws, who sacrificed everything for us, I don't feel obligated to extend the same level of financial support to them. 5 years ago, my brother asked for a loan to start his business. I told him the timing wasn't right. 2 months ago, his daughter was in a car accident due to drunk driving. While she survived, the incident left her with significant scarring on her legs that requires expensive cosmetic surgery. My brother approached me again for financial help, but I suggested he consider downsizing instead. My priority remains providing for my children and ensuring they have access to a good education. Old coworkers who wanted to join my business once it succeeded were told to apply through the usual process. The only exception has been my best friend, who has been my partner since the beginning. Knowing we've got each other's backs helps me sleep better at night. I realize my approach hasn't made me very popular. In our culture, it's expected to support your family and community, offer favors, and embrace nepotism. Many believe that if you're lucky enough to settle in the Western world, you should help friends and family emigrate. My parents have openly told me they're ashamed of how Western culture has changed me. I've been called heartless, selfish, and much worse. But I've also learned to stand by my choices. Edit, for those asking why my parents had such a lukewarm response back then, the surgery had a 40% success rate. They suggested we let nature take its course and try for another baby. While it may sound harsh to Westerners, it wasn't seen as cold in our home country. Of course, my wife and I couldn't accept that. Your best friend gave you all he had, but nobody else helped. Aida, for setting boundaries now. Your best friend gave you every dollar he had to save your son's life. Nobody else stepped in, not even to pretend they cared. Your in-laws sold their home to help you, and they deserve every bit of what you give back to them now. At your lowest, you were ready to sell a kidney for your son because no one else came through. The audacity of your old co-workers, who didn't lift a finger then, now begging for jobs at your business, is baffling. It's completely fair to have them apply like anyone else. Your parents aren't mad about anything, but your refusal to share your success with them. If they couldn't support you at your worst, they don't deserve you at your best, or your son, for that matter. Funny enough, this might be the first time the "can't handle me at my worst" phrase actually applies. To quote another Redditor, try for a new baby? What, the Kentucky Fried Duck? Glad your son is healthy and thriving, and that you made it through. As people often say, friends are the family you choose. Stick with them. In your culture, it's expected to support family and community, but no one helped when it was literally a life and death situation for your child. You owe them nothing. Your parents' comment about letting nature run its course and trying for another baby is beyond heartless. They basically told you to let your son die and try again for another grandchild. Who says that? You could have gone no contact back then, and no one would blame you. It's hard to explain how such comments are viewed differently in some cultures, but they aren't meant to be as cold as they sound. Think of it like bone marrow jelly, a delicacy in some countries, but a WTF is this moment in others. Update. It's been a couple of months, and I've learned my lesson about asking Reddit's 19-year-olds for advice on real-life problems, haha. Still, some of your suggestions stuck with me. I spoke candidly with my parents about why I distanced myself from them. They were clearly ashamed, and I think their pride kept them from reaching out sooner. My mom covered her face with her hands through most of the call. It was sad to see. I told them I wouldn't let them go destitute. If they need help with health or basic necessities, I'm a call away. But beyond that, things remain as they are. As for my niece, I disagree with most Redditors who think I should do nothing. She's a young woman who made a catastrophic mistake. Driving drunk and crashing into a pole left her with scars she'll carry for the rest of her life. It could have been worse, and thankfully it wasn't. I've helped pay for her initial scar treatments, like silicone dressings and steroid injections. Surgery isn't possible until her skin heals further, which will take another 6 months to a year. She's also asked for help finding a rehab facility, which she plans to pay for herself. She admitted to having a problem and explained why she started drinking. I won't share her reasons, but I hope none of her critics ever face similar struggles. I told my brother he has a year to come up with half the cost of her surgery. If he can't manage it, we'll have another conversation. But I'm committed to covering the other half. I think this has lit a fire under him, though. I stand by my decisions to keep certain family members at arm's length, while not letting them fall into complete poverty if the worst happens. Supporting my niece as she works to better herself feels right to me. Let's not play prosecutor and judge. Moral judgments are personal, and we should all act according to what feels right. For me, that means boundaries with my family, support for those who deserve it, and hope for redemption where it's possible. Update and final thoughts. No, I'm not your ATM. Thanks to everyone who shared their advice and comments on my previous post. Lastly, let me make something clear. Please don't send me requests for money. I've read every sob story imaginable since my last post. I'm not naive, and I certainly wasn't born yesterday. I know that any 12-year-old with an internet connection can whip up a convincing tearjerker. I already contribute significantly to local organizations that I can see are truly helping people in need. It's how I ensure my support actually makes a difference, and I sleep soundly at night knowing that. So, don't waste your time cursing me out or calling me heartless. If you're genuinely in need, seek out assistance from local resources that are equipped to help. Wishing everyone the best of luck and take care. Closing comments. Good luck to you and your family. I understand where you're coming from and don't blame you for keeping your distance from your relatives. I'm a transplant too, so I get the pressure that comes with that, but you also have a family of your own to think about. That pressure is very real. Sorry that people on Reddit were begging you for handouts. People can really suck sometimes. My jaw hit the floor when I read that part. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. People really suck. I didn't see your first post until now, but I fully support your decisions. You've been through a life-changing experience, and it's clear who your true friends and supporters are. When it comes to drunk driving incidents, people usually take one of two paths. They either recognize their mistakes and seek help, or they spiral deeper into the problem. I'm glad you're helping your niece turn things around, and that you're giving your parents a chance to restart as well. Thank you for your kindness. I'll never understand people who think it's okay to ask strangers for money. And that's it for this update, everyone.